By the looks of my watch, it's officially grave time. Today, I'm in Placerville, California, with one of my coworkers, John Weisker. We are visiting the Placerville Union Cemetery, which was founded in 1871. Its location is 46 miles northeast of Sacramento and 16 miles northwest of Coloma, where gold was discovered by James Marshall at Sutter's Mill in 1848. So I don't mess things up in the video, I'm going to refer to John Weisker as Johnny because that's what I call him at work. Now, he has always wanted to check out a cemetery tour with me, and he's also one of my fans and critics. I value the things that he says because he's very knowledgeable about history and because he had a career at one point in time in local television. On this particular cemetery tour, there are 8 actors portraying different people that are buried here at the cemetery. This guy is portraying Harley Dillinger, who was a California State Assemblyman and Senator. He was also an attorney and had a well-known furniture store and funeral parlor located in Placerville. After visiting our first storyteller, me and Johnny did a little bit of exploring around the cemetery. We checked out some of the literature that was available by a local bookstore, as well as information from the El Dorado County Historical Society. We were also waiting patiently for our turn to listen to the next storyteller tell a story about Nancy Gooch. And I just want to, in advance, let you know that she's not buried at this cemetery. Rather, she is buried in Coloma. And I apologize in advance if you can't hear her speak. I did everything I could to get as close as possible, and this is an amazing story, and I'm going to let her do the talking.
I'm Nancy Gooch, and I was one such Negro in El Dorado County. Truth is, I'm not sure I would have been allowed to be buried here. Not here. No, not this cemetery. This here cemetery was founded by white powerful men. And although there is no actual proof that colored folk could not be buried here, I'm sure it would have been frowned upon. In any case, we didn't ask. No, I found my final rest near my family home in Coloma. That's where I made my home after being brought here during the gold rush. My owner, Mr. Gooch, wanted to strike it rich, so he packed up all of his belongings, myself included, and headed west with so many other folks during that time. There was no time to waste. Gold had to be found before someone else found it. The insatiable greed of some folks just never made sense in my mind. Well, Peter and I made the long trek from Missouri in a wagon train in 1849 or thereabouts. Now, Peter was, for all intents and purposes, my husband and Andrew's father. Although slaves were not permitted to marry, we were just, to the world, a couple slaves. And there was a baby slave somewhere thereabouts if you looked hard enough. And my son, Andrew, my only son, was just 3 years old at the time. Considered too young for the journey and too young for the gold fields, was left behind. Sold to another family at 3 years old. They just took him away. Gave them their name, Monroe. And Peter and I put in a wagon made to leave him behind. I thought I'd never see him again. could you be made to leave a young child behind, knowing full well you'd never see him again? Just a baby. We survived the long journey, and we made it to California just before California gained actual statehood. Now, slavery being illegal in California as a free state, our owner had little choice. We were free, and also penniless. There were no stipends for freed slaves. We had to find work. Luckily, the miners, mostly unencumbered men who didn't care much for cooking and cleaning for themselves, they would hire out the cooking, cleaning, and mending and such when they could afford it. And I took job after job. There was no shortage of men looking for and finding gold. And my Peter, he was a fair carpenter, and he took jobs building much of what became a small community. A community that dwindled as fast as it grew, as folks snatched up all the gold and moved on. We worked and we saved. Thank you all for coming to hear Nancy's story.
While me and Johnny were at the cemetery, we found a couple of zinc graves, also known as zinkies. We couldn't find the manufacturing company on the grave, but imagine most of them are probably from either Michigan or Bridgeport, Connecticut. Our next storyteller is portraying the character of Stella Ralston Tracy, who was a gifted musician. When she had passed, she had given the El Dorado County Historical Society her house and possessions. This interesting character is portraying Elwyn Verkamp, who was involved in agriculture here in Placerville and also had a very well-known cattle ranch. Our very last storyteller that I filmed is portraying the character of Dr. Kunkler. He was one of a handful of doctors who settled in Placerville back when it was called Hangtown. During the 1850 cholera epidemic, he treated many patients, and he would write down his findings and publish them in a book. During our 2.5-hour visit at the Placerville Union Cemetery, we saw a lot of interesting graves and unfortunately saw a lot of vandalism. Now, the whole purpose of this tour was to raise money to restore a lot of the graves that had fallen victim to vandalism. In closing, I'd like to thank the El Dorado County Historical Society and anyone who participated in this amazing event and keeping the history alive of not only Placerville, but the Placerville Union Cemetery. Also, thank you to Johnny for tagging along on this cemetery tour with me. I look forward to the next one. And to all of you who watch Grave Time, thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.